Welcome back to the Whispers in the Corn Devlog series. I'm Brian McRae, and if you don't know me, I've had a #1 hit game on Steam and an Editor's Choice game on mobile, along with having worked in AAA as a lead environment artist and as an instructor in 3D animation and modeling. In this series, I'm working on Whispers in the Corn as a solo developer. Okay, so if you remember from last time, there were these 5 things I wanted to accomplish in this sprint, starting with the cornfield and working my way down. And I can tell you right now, not everything went according to plan. But despite these setbacks, I was able to accomplish a lot. So let's dive into it now, starting with the Dungen system. Dungen is a procedural system for creating dungeons. I'm going to use it here because the dungeon is made of modules, and each module is essentially a room. I could decorate the rooms however I want. I could have hallways, floors, and a ceiling, make them stone and make it look like a dungeon. Or, in this case, I could put a bunch of corn stalks on either side, have no ceiling, and boom, I have a cornfield, complete with sky above and everything else. But in order to make a cornfield, I'm going to need a corn stalk. This model pack from cgtrader.com will work perfectly. After extracting the pack and putting it in Engine, it's looking pretty good, except the foliage shader I have on it is making it dance in all kinds of weird ways. I'll just switch to this other vertex shader for the foliage, and that will work good enough for now. My next step was filling out the test area and putting in some models for scale. Once I had the scale locked down, I did a quick pass on lighting for both daytime and nighttime, and then got this. So I think this is working pretty well. I got some good shadows in here. You could still see what's going on. There's still detail on the ground that you could see, but there is a lot of shadow too. There's a lot of darkness, so that'll be good. Let's run around in here and see what this feels like. I'll get my Unity to wake up. All right, here we go. Yeah. Now imagine walking through this with a shaky cam. That would feel really nice. After creating a simple shaky cam effect using Cinemachine, I moved on to working in Dungen itself. Now, this is all procedural rooms. I have my corn stalks the way that I like them. I have a ground texture. I'm just going to go and populate each of these modules with all of those assets, and then I got this. As exciting as it was to see things shaping up, something just felt off. Through playtests, I found that it felt repetitive, it felt like I needed to go through the corn stalks, and no matter how much I built them up, I couldn't justify the collision for the walls in this cornfield. I needed to walk through them. So I decided to abandon this and move on to Plan B, terrain. Starting with the simple terrain with just one texture on it, I grabbed my prefab for just one of the corn stalks and used Matte Magic to place a whole bunch of them. After running into some serious frame rate issues, I decided to batch the models together to create more of a clump of stalks instead of just one at a time. Here I am doing my run, and then it's slower here. So I think that could be neat. If you're out here, you could run full sprint, but if you're in here, you slow down. And so maybe that's how he gets you. For the ground, I used these textures and used Matte Magic to randomize their distribution on the terrain. Displacement was added using Microsplat, and I now have a very detailed ground. It was now time to address the foliage shader. After importing and fixing a few shader errors, I now had Vegetation engine inside of my Unity assets and able to use. I now have really nice wind in all my stalks. So from there, I just needed to tweak the lighting, add ambient and player sounds. A few more props were added to give it more of a farm feel, and I now have corn interaction with the player. Lastly, I added a flashlight to give it a really spooky feel. So there you have it, first sprint successful. So if we look back at our list, we'll see that I have the cornfield, the clearings, the start of the ritual, and sound, but I made sure to sort of extract out all the gameplay stuff. I like to batch things with the way I work, and so in this sprint, I decided just to focus primarily on the environment art. So anything that was gameplay related, I just wanted to focus on that in a following sprint. Sometimes pivoting is a necessary part of the process. Not everything works out the way you plan, and that's okay. It's important to evaluate the fun factor and make adjustments as you go. This week's changes really made the field come alive, and I'm excited for the next steps. Next, I'll be focusing on the scare mechanics and core gameplay. Be sure to check out my website for any news on the game's release. And if you like this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow along on my social channels. Thanks for watching, and as always, be sure to design, develop, test, repeat.